In the vast expanse of the Crimson Sector, where twin suns painted the void in hues of blood and gold, Nebula Station 7 spun like a jewel caught between worlds. It was here, in this crossroads of 100 civilizations, that a dragon lady's grief would spark a legend. Caraxia Flamewing stood 7 feet tall when she folded her wings, her scales shimmering between deep crimson and burnished gold like captured starfire. She was nobility among the dragon people of Pyria 5, though she'd traded that life for love when she married Captain Draken Flamewing, the greatest racer the sector had ever known. But death, that cruel equalizer, had stolen him from her 3 solar cycles ago, leaving her with memories and a ship that refused to fly. Thunderstrike wasn't just any racing vessel. She was a symphony of engineering and artistry, with a chromium hull that bent light around her curves and a neural interface that had become the stuff of legend. Since Draken's death, she had sat in Caraxia's private hangar like a caged phoenix, rejecting pilot after pilot with increasingly creative violence. The morning Caraxia made her proclamation, the station's artificial atmosphere seemed to crackle with anticipation. Her voice thundered through the announcement system with the authority of ancient royalty. If you are a true pilot, prove it in the spaceship race. Complete 1 full circuit of the asteroid gauntlet in my Thunderstrike without the ship rejecting you, and I'll pay you 50,000 credits. 50,000 credits. It was enough to buy a small freighter, to start a new life, to fulfill dreams that had been gathering dust in the corners of desperate hearts. The challenge spread through the station faster than a hyperdrive jump, igniting ambition in beings from every corner of the galaxy. They came in waves. These would be conquerors of Thunderstrike. First, the local hotshots who'd grown fat on easy cargo runs between modules. The ship dismissed them in seconds, her neural interface flaring like an angry star before shutting down completely. Then came the drifter-scarred veterans with more cybernetic parts than flesh, their bodies testament to battles fought and barely survived. Thunderstrike showed them new definitions of pain, sending feedback pulses that left neural clusters paralyzed and pride shattered. Professionals arrived with their entourages and their certainties. Circuit racers who'd tasted victory on a dozen worlds, military aces who danced with death in the void. They brought neural boosters and quantum processors, believing technology could force compatibility. Thunderstrike taught them humility through 3rd degree, neural burns and emergency ejections. That left them gasping in the medical bay. By the time the 38th pilot a mechanoid, more machine than being limped away from Caraxia's hangar, the whole sector was watching. Some whispered the ship was cursed, haunted by Drakon's ghost. Others claimed Thunderstrike had achieved true consciousness and chose rejection out of pure spite. But Caraxia knew better. She'd seen her husband fly that ship on his last day, when radiation poisoning was already burning through him like solar wind. They danced through the asteroid gauntlet with such grace that watching felt like witnessing something sacred. She's waiting for the right soul, Draken had whispered with his dying breath. Someone who understands what it means to truly fly free. Several decks below the gleaming racing district, in maintenance tunnels that reeked of coolant and heated metal, Samuel Harwick sat alone. He'd been alone for so long that solitude had become his standard operating procedure, a defense mechanism built from the ashes of the Colonial Wars. Sam had seen too much in those brutal conflicts. Good people turned to vapor over mining rights, trust betrayed for territorial gains. He'd lost his entire squad, soldiers who'd looked to him for protection he couldn't provide. The guilt had driven him deep into the station's bowels, where machines offered the honesty that people never could. A faulty coupling would tell you exactly what was wrong. A fractured hull plate wouldn't lie about its weakness. The stories of Thunderstrike drifted down to him like starlight, filtering through ventilation grates. 38 pilots rejected, each failure more spectacular than the last. Something about the tale nagged at him during the quiet moments between sleep cycles. Not the money, though. 50,000 credits would buy a lifetime of quality coffee and spare parts. It was the way people spoke of the ship, not as a machine to be mastered, but as a soul searching for its match. When Sam finally climbed from the maintenance levels to the upper rings, his work boots clicked against polished floors with the rhythm of someone walking toward destiny. The racing district assaulted his senses, too bright, too loud, too full of beings who'd never known what it meant to hide from your own reflection. He arrived just in time to witness Challenger 39, a young Tyrellian whose scales shifted like liquid gemstones. The being climbed into Thunderstrike's cockpit with the swagger of unearned confidence. 8 seconds later, they were unconscious. The ship's rejection coursing through their nervous system like liquid fire. And what exactly do you think you're doing? Caraxia's voice descended from above, rich with authority and tinged with amusement that didn't quite hide her exhaustion. Sam looked up at the Dragon Lady as she circled him, her assessment as thorough as any diagnostic scan. When she identified him as maintenance, the coolant and metal shavings gave him away. He didn't deny it. "Can't say I'm different, ma'am," he admitted when she asked what made him think he could succeed where trained pilots had failed. "But I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. Not to you, not to that crowd, not even to myself. I'm just here to see if that ship and I might understand each other." Something shifted in Caraxia's golden eyes. She moved closer, bringing with her the scent of ozone and cinnamon, the unique fragrance of dragon people that spoke of fire and flight. Their conversation turned to loss, to the lessons that failure teaches better than success ever could. When she asked if he'd ever lost someone who mattered, Sam found himself speaking truths he'd buried for years. What happened next would become legend, though it began quietly. Sam didn't rush to the cockpit like the others. Instead, he spent 20 minutes walking around Thunderstrike, running his hands along her hull, feeling the vibration of systems on standby. He spoke to her in murmurs meant only for the ship, acknowledging her frustration with pilots who tried to take what was never offered. "My husband used to do exactly that," Caraxia said softly, and Sam heard in her voice the echo of a love that transcended death. When Sam finally entered the cockpit, it was with the reverence of entering a temple. He didn't immediately reach for the neural crown. Instead, he familiarized himself with manual controls, backup systems, the 1,000 details that other pilots had ignored in their hunger for glory. Thunderstrike tested him through subtle changes, cabin pressure fluctuations, seat adjustments that either accepted or rejected his posture. It was a conversation conducted in the language of machines, and Sam was fluent. When he finally lowered the neural crown onto his head, the connection wasn't the violent rejection others had experienced. It was like diving into an ocean of shared understanding. Thunderstrike probed his memories of loss, his years of isolation, his knowledge of what it meant to be broken and rebuilt. In return, she shared flashes of her races with Draken, the joy of perfect synchronization, the grief of losing her only true pilot, the hangar doors opened to reveal the asteroid, gauntlet thousands of tumbling rocks in a three-dimensional maze of death. Sam didn't think about piloting. He simply flew. Thunderstrike moved through his intentions rather than his commands. They threaded between massive asteroids, with margins measured in inches, dove beneath debris clouds, climbed vertically to avoid the wreckage of previous attempts. Halfway through, disaster loomed. A massive asteroid, one that shouldn't have been there, tumbled into their path. The gap that appeared would exist for exactly 1.3 seconds. They could abort, stay safe, admit defeat, or they could trust each other completely. The decision happened between heartbeats. Sam pulled them into an impossible maneuver, rolling inverted while accelerating. He felt Thunderstrike's system strain, heard warnings of exceeded tolerances, but neither yielded. They burst through into clear space, both trembling from shared survival. When they returned to the hangar after 15, Minutes and 37 seconds, the third fastest time ever recorded. Sam climbed out on unsteady legs to find the entire hangar in stunned silence. Then Caraxia was there, tears streaming down her scaled cheeks, wings spread wide in triumph and relief, and something else that would soon reveal itself as the beginning of love. What followed was a transformation as profound as any stellar birth. Sam's declaration that he hadn't flown for money struck a chord in Caraxia's heart. When she offered him the position as Thunderstrike's permanent pilot, it came with more than just a salary that dwarfed his maintenance wages. It came with the chance to be part of something greater. Weeks of training that followed were intense, but they were also filled with a joy Sam had forgotten existed. By day, he and Caraxia worked together, her racing knowledge complementing his intuitive understanding of machines. Thunderstrike grew stronger with each flight, the partnership deepening until ship and pilot moved as one consciousness. But it was the evenings that transformed everything. In the observation lounge, watching stars wheel past in their eternal dance, Caraxia and Sam shared their broken pieces. She spoke of Draken with love untainted by bitterness, while Sam finally gave voice to the guilt and grief he'd carried from the colonial wars. We're both broken in our own ways, Caraxia said one evening, her wing gently touching his shoulder. But maybe broken things can fit together in ways that whole ones can't. Their first kiss came after Sam's qualifying run for the Crimson Sector Championship. As he climbed from Thunderstrike's cockpit, still high on the adrenaline of perfect synchronization, Caraxia pulled him close. It was careful at first. Interspecies relationships required certain adjustments, but the emotion behind it was unmistakable and undeniable. The championship itself became the stuff of legend. 47 of the galaxy's finest pilots converged on the Grand Circuit, a course that made the asteroid gauntlet look like a training run. Sam and Thunderstrike didn't fight for early position. They'd learned that racing was about rhythm, not just speed. Through the stellar corona, where radiation cooked 3 competitors, past the artificial singularity where space-time itself became uncertain, into the probability gardens where reality existed in quantum superposition, they flew with a harmony that made spectators weep. When they crossed the finish line, beating the defending champion by 4 nanoseconds, the announcer's scream of disbelief echoed through the sector. But the greatest victory wasn't the trophy or the glory. It was Caraxia waiting at Thunderstrike's landing strut, pulling Sam into an embrace with wings that wrapped around them both in possession, protection, and pure joy. Their wedding 6 months later took place in Thunderstrike's cargo bay, the ship that had brought them together, now hosting their union. The ceremony brought together humans, dragon people, and a dozen other species in celebration of a love that transcended biology. I spent years hiding in maintenance tunnels, Sam said in his vows, thinking I was protecting myself from loss. But I was really just losing myself piece by piece. You and Thunderstrike didn't just give me a reason to fly again. You gave me a reason to live. Years flowed like starlight, bringing championship titles, a successful racing school, and eventually, through the wonders of genetic compatibility therapy, a daughter named Hope, who inherited her mother's wings and her father's understanding of machines. When Hope climbed into Thunderstrike's cockpit on her 18th birthday, the ship accepted her instantly, recognizing the child of 2 souls who had understood the meaning of trust. But on this night, as Sam stood with Caraxia on their observation deck, such futures were still unwritten stars. Thunderstrike sat powered down in the hangar below, somehow still aware, a presence that had made everything possible. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't answered your challenge? Sam asked. Caraxia's laugh was warm as captured sunlight. No, because I knew you would come. Maybe not you specifically, but someone like you. Someone who understood that the greatest adventures aren't about conquest, but about connection. In the vast, cold universe, Finding someone willing to learn your language, whether you were human, dragon, or a temperamental racing ship, was worth more than all the credits in the galaxy. As the twin suns set beyond the station's superstructure, painting space in shades of crimson and gold, three souls who had found each other against all odds settled in for another evening. Together, they were proof that sometimes the universe knows what you need better than you do. Sometimes it puts challenges in your path not to break you, but to show you who you really are. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those challenges come with wings and fire and a love that transcends the stars themselves. Thunder, Strike's running lights flickered once in what Sam had learned to recognize as mechanical laughter. After all, the best stories were always the ones that surprised everyone, including the ones living them.